The boys are back. The boys are back. What's up, my brother? How you doing?
Well, I'm well. How are you? I'm wearing glasses with you today in solidarity.
In solidarity. Welcome, everybody, to MASL Monday. Alex Bastiavansky, Phil Ivanko. Happy to be here on CBS Sports Golazo. Yes, slightly different look today. A mishap with contact lenses. So I pulled out the glasses, which I do not wear publicly or have not for some time anyway, but it only made sense today. And Phil, not only did you shave your head in solidarity, we'll use that as an excuse. And you're wearing your glasses as well, which I appreciate, brother. Thank you.
Well, what better time to put on your glasses than on national TV, right? For the first time for public
glasses
consumption.
That I bought 10 years ago that have not been restyled since. Pulled a note. And also, we've got to say a huge thank you to our good friends at Capelli for the new awesome swag. We've got a couple. We're probably reversing outfits next week, aren't we? I'll be wearing what you're wearing, and you'll be wearing this one.
Yeah, we'll just flip it around just to catch everyone off. And thanks from John Raymond from the league, sort of coordinating and getting us.
Absolutely. Yep. And our friends at Capelli, they just beautiful stuff that Capelli puts out, and we're so happy to be able to wear it. But there's a lot of juicy stuff to cover this week, folks. Like seriously. We'll get to once again, shockingly controversy in San Diego in segment 2. But we've got to start in the first segment here with what we thought was going to be the game of the weekend. We were so pumped to watch Baltimore taking on Milwaukee, going into the Lions Den in Milwaukee, to old school rivals from the league. We were expecting, fireworks in this one, and instead it was an absolute slaughter, Phil. Baltimore taking them down 9-3. What happened?
Well, they put on a clinic first and foremost, right? Milwaukee coming into this game off of a very busy week, has to be said, right? 2 games in Utica, then the midweek game against Chihuahua, which we'll touch on in a little bit. And then this massive matchup against Baltimore that we wanted to see Baltimore sort of their first litmus test of the season. And they came in and they absolutely walloped
Milwaukee with flying colors. Yeah.
On their home turf. Julian Rodriguez in goal. I think it's important to say there from the Blast, because we've been trying to go back and forth, basically telling Coach Bascom to pick a goalie. So we went with Rodriguez, and from there it was just really it was an excellence of execution from Baltimore. Beat them at every turn. Bascom had the team sort of well prepared, and they outclassed the Wave.
They did. A worst loss for the Wave, and I was looking it up because bells were ringing. My brain doesn't often work properly, but something stuck out in it, and that was, it's been a while, and I looked it up, and the last time they lost this bad was against Kansas City, in Kansas City, second Milwaukee game of the year last season. So November 26th of 2023, when the Wave lost 9-3. They have not lost anything close to that bad since that time. I mean, I was shocked by the final score.
Then 2 years ago, 2 years ago, they lost to the Blast at the TU Arena. They got thumped. When we were really looking forward to that game, Milwaukee was on a bit of a hot streak, went into Baltimore, and Baltimore took advantage of. So one of the oldest rivalries that our indoor game has to offer, the 2 oldest continually operating teams. I think I have that right, if I read correctly, off of the Facebook groups. Thank you, Facebook groups, for giving me that one. So a very classic matchup. And I think Baltimore answered a lot of questions for us in this one. I really do.
Yeah, I still wish that Baltimore was playing one of San Diego or Chihuahua down the stretch.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
Right now, they've got KC once this season, and that is their final regular season game. So that should be a very interesting one as well. Let's talk about, we're going back to last Tuesday, but we haven't had a chance to talk about the Chihuahua-Milwaukee game, which was a banger. I mean, this thing was a fantastic game. 7-6 Milwaukee loses in overtime, and they just, down the stretch, they just couldn't close the deal. I mean, Chihuahua, Phil, take us through it, but the Savage tied it up with less than a minute left, and then heartbreaking stuff in overtime for the Wave.
So heavy legs from Milwaukee for sure in that game. They mentioned it on the broadcast numerous times, and it was very obvious to see in person too. Stats bear it out as well. Outshot by the Savage 12-2 in the third quarter and then 18-5 in the fourth. They could not keep possession of the ball.
Just like you said, heavy legs, man. That is the ultimate representation of heavy legs. Yeah, they just was catching up with them, wasn't it? Yeah.
58 shots by Chihuahua in that game against the Wave, right? Which was, we want to see more from. I called the Savage the slow and methodical team. I mean, they just told me to stuff it in my locker, really, at that point. But it's hard to break down these games in moments too. We have to talk about the way that the Savage sort of won the game too, with that sort of miscommunication, mishap from the Wave, the Augie Ray in goal and the defender, and sort of
tough way to lose.
Yeah. It's a tough way to lose, and with Milwaukee, they got the luck in Utica with that last minute winner. And unfortunately this time around, it came back around.
The reverse. Yeah. We got about a minute and a half. Let's touch on Chihuahua and Empire. I mean, nothing huge to really talk about. Chihuahua took him down big time, 11-5.
Yeah.
That was the most convincing road win we've seen from the Savage so far this season. And what we really want to talk about quickly here is, Phil, is the system that Empire is got. And if it works or not, and we're going to have a coach on at some point over the next couple of weeks who can answer that question properly. But for me, I mean, it's really playing with fire. And you see them giving up 11 to Chihuahua on their home floor. I understand if it's at Corner Sport, but what's your take on the system and if it's working or not, Phil, where they've got the goalie playing as basically, as a sixth attacker throughout the game?
So I think the sample size is enough now where we can really start to analyze this. 14 games into the season, 90 goals conceded, right? And this isn't like one of those Barcelona things where like you keep the ball so the other team doesn't have it and can't score against you, right? Like this is, it's not only just being figured out, it's sort of not being adjusted, in my opinion, either. 90 goals is a lot to give up.
Third highest in the league. Third highest in the league, so far.
And we haven't seen a lot of those long distance ones. We're starting to see them more creep into the games now, right? Mm-hmm. High risk, high reward. I just don't know. Now, to be fair, Empire is sitting in sixth place, right? So they're in a playoff spot, right? They have scored 89 goals too, right? Which is a good deal of goals.
Yeah.
But, this is sort of high octane, really like, you play craps? Alex, are you a craps man?
I do not. No, I do not.
This is craps of indoor soccer for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, we'll have a coach on who can talk about this and what they think about it. And really quick, I remember a couple of years ago reading about or watching a hockey team that their goalie was injured and they didn't have a backup goalie for the game. So instead of dressing one of their skaters in goalie equipment who had no idea what they were doing, they decided to play like with a pulled goalie the entire game. So 6 attackers the entire game, and they won the game by a goal, I think is what it was. And it was like a 12-11 game or something along those lines. But it was thrilling to watch. But you're taking a huge chance, obviously, when you do something like that. So anyway, we can discuss more in the next.
It definitely changes sort of the cadence and the game script, right, for these games where it's not as much as a back and forth. It's really like a controlled thing in your end. And then if you get it, the rush to send it back. So it certainly is different to watch as a viewer. I'm just not sold yet that it works.
Okay. A discussion for a future episode for sure. We are going to take a quick break and come back in just a moment. Back to MASL Monday, folks. Alex Bastiavansky and Phil Levanko here on CBS
playing hurt, but we're getting there, right?
We're getting there, man. We're getting there. Phil's got a slight cold, by the way, don't you?
Yeah.
You feeling a little under the weather, but
I mean, everyone's sick this time around. I mean, like the players, nobody's healthy. They got to fight through it.
You got to fight through.
No sympathy for broadcasters either. You know what I mean?
As we sit here in our comfy living rooms and discuss these things, me with my poor eye, you with your poor cold. But let's get to San Diego, because great game against Tacoma on Sunday. San Diego takes a 4-3 in overtime. Fascinating non-call, I guess you could say, because what happens is San Diego scores the winner. Everyone's celebrating. Tacoma's not even complaining.
Yep. Craig Giles with the winner.
Craig Childs with the winner. Great game, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And the referees, after a couple minutes, say, well, hold on for a second here. We're going to review the play to see if there was a possible foul that could have impeded the play. And yeah, there was definitely, I mean, Phil, I'm looking forward to watching you and Ryan on Under Review as to what Ryan thinks about this, because first of all,
everyone just loves a ref show.
I mean, it is a foul. He runs right over him. He doesn't have the ball, but does it impede the play? No, because then the play resets and Sousa gets back up and he was able to defend. So maybe he was a little dazed. I don't know. But so they review the play.
No one guarded Craig Giles.
No one guarded Craig Giles. So they review the play and the goal stands. And what stuck out to me was, well, this is interesting because in the Utica game, in what was that, early December, Phil?
It was Front Wave's a home opener, I believe, right?
Right. And they called Utica for the elbow. Now, I mean, you could say that impeded the play more.
A little bit more direct, for sure.
A little bit more directly. But Utica gets that one called back, and San Diego goes on and wins the game. So it would have been interesting to see, but I really want to hear Ryan Sigich's take on this when you do it. What is your take on this one?
So, I mean, I'll give it to you now. I think it's re-refereeing, to be honest with you, right? If the referees call their own number to take a look at the monitor, which I think happened here, if you don't catch it in play, what are we looking at, right? I think that's kind of the point of this. There were a number of reviews in this game. I think we're going to see a bunch of them on Under Review for sure. But it's certainly it didn't stop Tacoma from marking the most obvious dangerous player who ended up scoring the game-winning goal. It was
and Tacoma wasn't complaining. Like when I look at the review, the players weren't immediately up in arms or anything. I just found it fascinating because it took me back to that play against Utica.
Yeah, it's a good shout,
called.
For sure.
And this one was, I mean, there's no question you could have called a foul on it. Like, I mean, he ran him right over. So it's interesting that they didn't decide to do it. I'm glad they didn't, to be completely honest with you, because look, it didn't affect the run of play. The goal was scored regardless. I think it was the right non-call.
So the interesting thing for me from this game too is only 4 goals from the Sockers, right? Mm-hmm. Like they really, when things are going good, it really goes good for the Sockers. When it struggles a little bit, it's like a Ferrari, right? It's tough to get that engine sort of revving again. But Tavoy Morgan on the score sheet twice, and he's been phenomenal.
He's having a great season,
for San Diego. Morales back on the short score sheet again, goals in 3 straight for him after 2 games without a point, right? So, it's that constant sort of, I think we maybe consternate the most on this one with that sort of San Diego win in style thing, but it's certainly, we're waiting for them to turn it on and they finally got the victory on this one. But Tacoma's side of things, we've talked about it before. It's sort of, I think we're kind of getting into a bit of a transitional year for Tacoma, and it will be interesting to see what happens going forward the rest of the year. There's just too many points to catch up being in 10th place.
Okay, we need to leave some time for another juicy ending here between Kansas City and Dallas that happened in Big D. Dallas leading 6-4 with 3.5 minutes remaining in the game, and they end up losing it 7-6. And I mean, heartbreaking stuff for obviously the Sidekicks, who are fighting tooth and nail for that 8th and final playoff spot. They've looked so much better this year. They've had a good year so far. This was a game that they were not expected to win, but man, when the points are there for the taking, you've got to take those points. And Phil, as we're watching the game-winning goal here and how it goes down, I mean, this is just the worst way to lose a game. Valadez goes to pass it out, hits teammate Albert Rodriguez on this back leg, pops right to Flores for the game winner. Ouch.
Yeah, and Nacho scored both of his goals right in the 4th quarter. It's terrible analysis for me, and some of you might be sitting there, well, duh, that's every show. But they got indoored, man. Like, this is just one of those classic indoor things where they're up by 2, and you're like, man, are Dallas secretly good? Like, we've been kind of teasing them that they're going to slip into that playoff spot this whole time. And here they go against a Kansas City team that, we expect big things from. And they're toe to toe with them, up 2 goals late in the fourth. And then the sixth attacker comes and they got indoored, and it's just, it's one of those games where I think good teams sort of figure out how to win, and well, I was going to say we don't ask how, we just ask how many, but obviously with San Diego, we ask how too.
But how many times has Dallas been in a situation like that over the last few years where they have the opportunity to upset a real front running team like that, and you're up 2 goals with 3.5 minutes left? I mean, the old hockey analogy is you start gripping that stick just a little bit harder. It's a nerves thing, possibly. It starts maybe playing in your head while we're about to possibly knock off Kansas City, for crying out loud, who made it to the final last year. I don't know. I'm not trying to,
no.
go
But
inside the mind of a Dallas Sidekicks player, but there's so much. Maybe you start thinking about it too much. If Joey T was on the show right now, he could talk to us about it a bit, about what goes through your mind in that situation. But yeah, you were going to say,
well, I think what Joey would say too is winning is a skill, right? Mm-hmm. And you have to sort of learn that skill and bring in people to help you learn how to win, right? Because winning is a skill in any sport, grinding out games that you're not at your best. Mm-hmm. And, Kansas City did it. And unfortunately Dallas did not.
Yep. One other game from KC to talk about. We'll quickly do it. They took down Harrisburg 7-3. No Dom Francis all weekend for Harrisburg, though. Nato in goal, by the way, for KC. And you posed the question here. Let's maybe leave this a minute, and then we got to sign off for this segment. But Rian Marquez, is he the front runner for MVP? And to my mind, he's one of them. I mean, he's second in league scoring this year right now. I mean, absolutely, up there. Pardon me. Sorry, I was thinking of Rios, but Marquez, Marquez has had a fantastic season.
30 points so far this season, matches a career high already, right? That he had 21-22. Almost 3 points a game for him. For me, he's the front runner. And I think we're going to really sort of enjoy this debate as we get down the road on this show, because we've got a constant presence, a constant player on the score sheet. We've got a supernova in Utica that, isn't going to be as constant, right? Is the best way to put it, right? So as the sort of MVP narrative takes hold, partly from dummies like us, I'm going to advocate on Marquez's side because he's going to be there week in, week out. And if he keeps up this pace, that's going to be a pretty impressive resume for MVP.
Marquez, leading the league in scoring, right, with 30 points. I got it mixed up with Rios, 29 in second. I will say this: if Kelvin was playing all his games this season, to me, he is the definition of the MVP, scoring at the clip that he has. And Utica City is having a very difficult time winning any games without him in the lineup. So I think he would be the front runner. But right now, Marquez.
I'm looking forward to this debate.
Oliveira. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one.
It's going to be a fun one. We've got to take a quick break. More MASL Monday coming back in just a moment. Welcome back to MASL Monday, everybody. Alex Bastivansky and Phil Levanko, the gruesome twosome, the Chrome Dome brothers, whatever you want.
The best broadcasting duo in the MASL.
Best broadcasting duo with Kansas City's duo just a little smidget behind, right?
Has Bergrud accepted my jousting duel yet?
Are we doing like the American Gladiators broadcasters
right?
version? Hopefully soon. We'll have to have them on. We'll see if we can get them on next week, possibly. But anyway, I digress. We've got to talk about our good buddy, Eddie P., friend of the show, Eddie Puskarich, picking up his first. Okay, the Outlaws picked up their first win, of the season, taking down Dallas 6-4. Another missed opportunity for the Sidekicks. But we are throwing out our congratulations to the Outlaws for their first win of the season, and to our good friend Eddie Puskarich, who was hired on as the Outlaws coach this season, came into a difficult situation, trying to right the ship, picking up his first win. Huge win. Phil, what's your take on this game?
Congratulations, Eddie. It was a spoiler game for the Outlaws, right? They had Dallas prime for the taking in a game that the Sidekicks absolutely needed, especially after that Kansas City one we just talked about, right? Like, this was the weekend that you and I fully expected the Sidekicks to kind of start making their push towards the playoffs, and they absolutely whiffed on both of these games. So a great effort by Texas really all weekend, starting to really put together competitive games, right? And that's really the sign of coaching, right?
And that's one thing.
Competitive.
Yes, sorry, man. And I was going to say, and that's one thing we did talk about before, was anyone expecting that Dallas was going to roll through these games? It's the Dallas Derby, baby. Like, I mean, the Outlaws were going to be up for these games. We knew that, not a surprise, but congratulations, Texas. Congratulations, Eddie, on your first win. Texas did drop a 5-3 decision to Utica on Saturday. Our biggest takeaway from that was only 2 points for Kelvin on the night, Phil.
Yeah, I was taking straw polls, how many points Kelvin would have in this game, over under kind of stuff. And only 2 points. It was a very weird game to watch. I felt like it was in 0.5 speed the entire time. But we talked about how winning is a skill, right? And sometimes that skill and Utica, they don't like each other. So it was good to see Utica sort of, if they have any ambitions of making noise, can't drop these games.
And St. Louis taking down Harrisburg 12-7, a really, really big win for St. Louis. That vaults them into the 8th and final playoff spot right now. A lot of soccer left to be played, obviously. So great win from St. Louis. Taiyu getting 4 goals in the game. Yep. How happy are they to have him back in the lineup? So good on St. Louis. But, man, I'll tell you, man, Harrisburg is right there, though. Harrisburg needs these wins as well. I mean, they're in 11th spot, but 7 points right now. They're only 4 points out of a playoff spot, and they've played 2 less games than the Ambush have. So they are right there. Harrisburg is, we've liked what we've seen from them this season, but they got to start picking up those wins, Phil.
Yeah, the problem is with Harrisburg is depth too, right? Dom Francis didn't play all weekend. I think Harrisburg, a little bit of atrophy in the roster there, and those are pieces they really can't miss when they need to pick up these victories, especially on the road.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, let's get to, before we sign off, Phil's power rankings. Only the second time we've done this all season. Last week we did grades for all the teams, but these are the power rankings. Throw them up. Let's see what you got this week, buddy. Okay, you got San Diego at number 1. You've got the Blast sitting at number 2, ahead of the Savage. Okay, I mean, obviously the record's great. Baltimore, and they are coming off that massive win. Chihuahua 3, KC 4. Yeah, you got Milwaukee around in 5th spot now after that disappointing loss. Utica 6. Take me through the rest here, but pretty much, I mean, I think the last time we threw it up was about 3 weeks ago, so not a ton has changed on there. Yeah,
not really. I think Kansas City, Chihuahua, they could probably be flipped, or you can take umbrage there if you're a KC fan because you just beat the Savage at home. But it's I think what we're really seeing is a lot of separation between the tiers of teams. We knew the good ones would be up towards the top, and that's where they kind of are floating. I think Milwaukee sliding down is sort of been a reflection on their season as well. And I've got St. Louis over the Strikers. I know they've played some games back and forth against each other. I just think when all is said and done, sort of the Ambush will kind of be up ahead of the Strikers come playoff time.
Right on. That's it. We are out of time. Let us know what you think, folks, in the comments of Phil's power rankings. Also of San Diego, like if you see some parallels with the Utica situation, if you think maybe they should have whistled it down, or I'm always fascinated by hearing what our viewers think by these things. But regardless, thank you so much for watching, everybody. We will see you next week for MASL Monday.